planet on which we live is filled with natural wonders. Wonders made possible because of water, the magical substance that makes life on it possible. Wherever it goes, water constantly transforms itself in a cycle that begins at the ocean. Water rises into the atmosphere, where it stays a short while before falling to the earth in the form of rain and snow. The flowing streams of water that result from this precipitation converge into rivers that nourish an abundance of life. Water is the foundation for the survival of all life. It's the main factor that determines climate and the distribution of species on our planet. In Xinjiang, the westernmost part of China, there's a place called Yili, where the minimum temperature in winter can reach as low as -20 degrees Celsius. But despite these freezing conditions, in the Yili River Valley, there's a world of water which is relatively warm. This is an area of underground hot springs, and because of them, the water here never freezes, not even in the harshest winter conditions. And starting from late October each year, this place literally turns into a swan lake. Migrating from Siberia and having flown a distance of thousands of kilometers, these mute swans finally reach a place where they can rest. They are, of course, very tired. The sound of the mute swan's call is rather muffled, even somewhat hoarse, and it's for this reason it's called a mute swan. For thousands of years, swans have impressed people with their elegance, one aspect of which is that they're always so quiet. Most of these magnificent birds live in Europe. In Asia, they are relatively scarce. For a long time, almost no one knew that they spent their winters in the northern part of Asia. In the cold winter, the Yili River Valley offers natural conditions that are hard to come by. In the course of the swans' migration, rivers, lakes, and wetlands serve as a kind of guide. The warm underwater environment here provides conditions that give rise to various water plants the mute swans favor. But these swans are here for much more than just food. They've come in search of a mate and to produce offspring. It seems that love really is, quite literally, in the air. It's because mute swans mate for life that some people regard them as a paragon of true love. As soon as spring arrives, the mute swans start moving again, but this time with their young. Far to the east, some 4,500 kilometers from Ili, many rivers in North China reach the Bohai Sea. In early spring, the surface of the sea is covered with floating ice, providing a perfect breeding ground for a very intriguing mammal, the spotted seal. It is, in fact, the only species of seal that breeds in China's seas. There are 8 spotted seal breeding areas in the entire world, and the Liaohe River estuary in Bohai Sea is the one farthest to the south. Compared with other places, the seawater here is less saline, and it's also warmer. This makes it the perfect place for pregnant seals to give birth to their young. This seal pup was born just 5 days ago. As it's been born into a world that's icy white, its shaggy fur provides superb camouflage, but it also absorbs a lot of water, and this makes it difficult for the pup to swim in the sea. It will have to wait until it has shed its downy coat before it can enter the water for the first time. The drift ice begins to melt in early spring, and this is bad news for the spotted seals. The mortality rate among newborn seal pups is quite high. Only half of them will make it through their first year. To meet the challenge, this seal pup is doing his best to gain a little more strength and weight. With the nourishment of milk from its mother, a seal pup can gain up to 1 kilogram in weight each day. The mother seal keeps her pup close. Every few minutes, she comes back to check on it and constantly encourages it to enter the water. Upon entering the water for the first time, the seal pup panics a little. Although anxious, the mother seal patiently stays with her pup. Finally, her patience pays off. The pup takes the most important step in its life. It's a touching moment. The Altin wilderness covers an area of 45,000 square kilometers, an area larger than Denmark. For every species, life is a constant battle for survival. And in every corner of the Earth, each species must fight for survival in its own way. The Kumukuli Desert is situated at 4,000 meters above sea level. In this vast, barren expanse of land, amazing stories are played out on a daily basis. Kumukuli is located far from any ocean. Rain-bearing clouds are blocked from reaching it by massive mountain ranges. As a result, there is very little rain. Not every place on Earth is lucky enough to be a lush oasis. But whatever the difficulties, life always finds a way. Life lived in the harsh environments of these badlands is full of surprises. In Mongolian, Altin means a mountain with cypress trees. As the surrounding glaciers melt, they provide water that enables life to survive in this otherwise harsh wilderness. "6,000 wild yaks and 40,000 equus kyan gallop across the barren land. Nature has its cold side. The climate of the plateau is at best capricious, and this means survival is under constant threat. The animals of this region must face this threat every day, and none of them is more vulnerable than these little newborn yaks. In early summer, the Kumukuli Desert is covered in deep snow, providing nourishment for the earth in another form. The sudden change in temperature is certainly a threat to survival. So are the predators that have been trading this herd of yaks. And it's the newborn yaks that make the easiest prey. The appearance of a Tibetan blue bear, the largest and most fierce predator in the Altin area, causes the wild yak family to become restless. Naturally, none of the yaks wants to confront the bear. As it happens, however, this adult male Tibetan blue bear isn't interested in hunting. It's looking for a mate. This is the time when the male bear is at its most irritable. The wild yak mother is on high alert, and if necessary, will be ready to fight. But this time, there's no need. In nature, life and death follow a certain law, and here, death does not mean the end, it's just the completion of a cycle of life. Every body of water is a stage for nature's amazing stories. This karst region in southern Guangxi receives an abundance of rainfall, and so there's plenty of water. Hidden below the surface of the rivers that run through the valleys of these rugged mountains are a variety of plants with unique adaptations that allow them to survive the region's conditions. The Jingxiensis variety of the Otelia acuminata is a submerged perennial plant endemic to China. Its flowers bloom under the water, but every morning the spiral scape of this plant lifts the flower out of the water, allowing it to be pollinated by insects. At dusk, the flower receives another signal from the setting sun and returns to the warm water. It makes high demands of the environment, but at the same time helps determine the quality of the water in the river. After slipping through the towering mountains in its upper reaches, the river gradually slows. It's on the alluvial mudplains formed by rivers over thousands of years ago that China's most vibrant life appears. Uluansuhai Nur is a masterpiece created by a natural diversion of the Yellow River. The average water depth here is just 1 meter, and it formed only 100 years ago. Uluansuhai Nur is the largest freshwater lake in the entire Yellow River Basin, as well as one of North China's most important breeding grounds for migratory birds. In spring, the migrating birds begin brooding in the reed marshes. Spring in Uluansuhai Nur is a season of life. The protagonists on Uluansuhai Nur at this time are the mute swans. For now, the newly hatched nestlings look like a bunch of ugly ducklings, who, under the care of their mother, learn to forage for food. The father swan is ever vigilant, aggressively defending his family's territory. Wherever land, wetlands and waters come together, there's always an abundance of flora and fauna. This is why they're referred to as the Earth's 3 primary ecosystems. The favourite food of the mute swans can be found in the shallow wetlands. An adult mute swan can eat close to its own body weight of water plants every day. The nestlings of the mute swans will live in Uluansuhai Nur Lake for around 200 days. In autumn, the monsoon winds blow and the reeds gradually turn yellow. Soon the cygnets, already looking much like their parents, will migrate with all the other swans to the warm south for the winter. In autumn, hundreds of thousands of migratory birds gather on the water before embarking on their migratory journey. This year, the number of mute swans has increased by nearly 200, so it's been a successful year. An adult mute swan weighs 17 kilograms, close to the maximum weight at which it can fly. Flying is the most exhilarating thing in their lives. The adult swans act as flying instructors. Under their guidance, each young swan undergoes intensive training. To take flight, the swans need a 125-metre-long surface of water as a runway. Needless to say, these swans need a light step to achieve the miracle of waterborne aviation. These youngsters are going to need a lot of practice before they can take to the air. Once they master the skills of flying, the young swans will be able to fly up to an altitude of 9,000 meters and travel thousands of kilometers with their parents. Mute swans fly at a higher altitude than any other bird in the world. Other than humans, there's no animal on the planet that can travel the long distances covered by birds. In the course of their migrations, they can reach almost every corner of the Earth. In the summer, 100,000 migratory birds gather on Bird Island of Qinghai Lake. On this small island, no more than the size of 2 soccer fields, cormorants, brown-headed gulls, great black-headed gulls, and bar-headed geese lay their eggs, hatch their young, and take care of their offspring. Qinghai Lake is the largest lake in the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, and right now an annual drama that takes place on this inland saltwater lake is about to begin. In early May, Qinghai Lake naked carp begin to gather at the estuary of the North Shore, and like experienced fishermen, hundreds of thousands of birds watch for changes taking place in the water below them. For these birds, it's the time for a fishing harvest that will determine the success or failure of their breeding season. The troops in the Vanguard Regiment depart from the bird island to track the movements of the shoals of fish. At the freshwater estuary, which connects with Qinghai Lake naked carp begin to form schools and swim against the current. It's the most important journey these carp will ever take. Over thousands of years, the birds have acquired a collective memory and hunting instincts that inform them the time has come. On Bird Island, tens of thousands of nestlings are waiting. All of them are in need of sufficient food to make it through the long migration they will undertake. 60,000 tons of Qinghai Lake naked carp embark on a journey in search of their spawning ground. After millions of years of evolution, these fish have adapted to the lake's salinity, but they cannot reach sexual maturity in the salty water. To spawn, they must migrate to fresh water streams. These carp swim against the current to a destination some 60 kilometers away. It will take them more than a month to get there. It will be a journey full of obstacles. As the further upstream they go, the shallower the river will become and the swifter the current. The birds follow the fish all the way. As the current slows down the speed of the fish, the birds know the time has come to try their luck. The annual feast begins. Each year, the birds from Bird Island eat thousands of tons of these carp. Over the last 10 years, the number of naked carp in Qinghai Lake has seen a 17-fold increase, while the number and species of birds has also greatly increased. It's this symbiotic relationship between fish and birds that defines the Qinghai Lake ecosystem and its virtuous circle of life. The fishing continues until sunset. When the sky darkens, the birds fly back satisfied. To irrigate farms in the area, a dam has been constructed on the main river where the naked carp spawn. This is the biggest obstacle in the way of the migrating carp. As a Qinghai Lake naked carp is no more than 30 centimeters long, the nearly 1 meter high river dam poses a major problem. On average, the naked carp swim 1 or 2 kilometers a day. They try to swim as far as they can, as the longer the hatched fry live in fresh water, the greater their chances of becoming juvenile fish. But for the fish, getting over the dam and back to their old spawning grounds is next to impossible. They give it their best shot, jumping again and again until they're exhausted. Amazingly, some of them make it. Enough get through to ensure the survival of the species in the years to come. Going against the current for dozens of kilometers, the shoal of carp finally reach their ideal spawning ground. It's a place where the river flows slowly, the water is crystal clear, and the bottom of the river is covered with pebbles and fine sand, the perfect bed in which to lay their eggs. The males build their nests by swinging their tails. The females rub their abdomen on the stones to stimulate their ovaries. They will begin to ovulate when the river water reaches just the right temperature. Each carp that makes it to the spawning ground releases around 16,000 eggs. The eggs hatch only when the rate of water flow and temperature conditions are suitable. Only 21% of the eggs actually hatch. In a few months' time, the hatched fry will make their way downstream to Qinghai Lake, and when they are mature, they will make the same journey as the one made by their parents, returning to their birthplace. During the migratory season of the Qinghai Lake naked carp, the nestlings on Bird Island get enough to eat. The fishes the birds produce are in fact an important source of organic matter for Qinghai Lake. It nourishes the algae, aquatic plants and crustaceans, all of which are sources of food for the carp. In the waters of the plateau, all life is intertwined. Nature has built a complex yet subtle ecosystem in which all species depend on each other. In April, the water temperature in the Bohai Sea rises and the drift ice begins to melt. The rivers and lakes along the Bohai River deliver various organic substances from the land, turning this place into a natural fishing ground. When the monsoon changes direction, the migratory birds return, and the Eurasian oyster catchers initiate their courtship dance. On a secluded island in Liaodong Bay, the spotted seals enjoy the warm spring sun. This is in fact the largest known spotted seal population in China. At the moment, the seals are shedding their thick winter fur, replacing it with lighter summer fur. The seals rest on land only during the molting and breeding seasons. As they trudge across the beach and rocks, they look rather clumsy. They are, after all, marine animals, and as such, they are better adapted to life in the ocean. The limbs of the seals have over time evolved into webbed flippers. These, along with their specially rounded spindle-shaped bodies, make them masters of the water. The waters of the Bohai Sea comprise one of China's most important fishing grounds. Inevitably, the habitat of the spotted seals intersects with that of mankind. Increased shipping and pollution of the sea has greatly reduced the tranquility of the seals' habitat. On land, the seals are constantly on the alert, and at the first sign of any danger, they gently roll into the water. The sea is their world, a place of freedom. Spotted seals can swim very fast. In fact, they can cover the distance of a full marathon in just 90 minutes. The Bohai Rim region is one of the most densely populated areas in China, and it is highly developed economically. Here, human activity has had a huge impact on the living environment of the seals. In the 78,000 square kilometers of the Bohai Sea, the habitat of the harbor seals is shrinking. On land, spotted seals seem to prefer a crowded social life. They gather together and at times use their short forelimbs to fight for territory. In a week or so, they will leave the Bohai Sea and move on to waters in the Pacific Northwest, where they will spend the summer and autumn. This year's newborn seal pups are working at improving their swimming skills in preparation for the migration that lies ahead. The pups will later follow the group, swimming more than 1,000 kilometers in just a month. Spotted seals are master divers. They can close both their nose and ears underwater, diving to a depth of up to 300 meters in their hunt for fish and crustaceans. The rising water temperature is now telling the seals it's time to migrate. The seal pups are about to leave their birthplace and swim away, following their parents. Water is the basis for all life, the beginning of everything. From the ocean to the plateau, from the desert to the lake, water affects the Earth's ecosystems in a multitude of ways. It determines the nature of biological populations and the habitats and instincts of all creatures, while shaping the Earth itself.